Hello and welcome to Insightful Accountants Future Forward webinar series for September 2025. This month's focus is on practice management. My name is Emily Frowles and I am your host on behalf of Insightful Accountant. Today's session is Defrag Your Firm, the hidden profit drain of a fragmented tech stack, and our presenter today is Julie Smith. So thank you, Julie, for being here. And just a big thank you to our sponsor, Xero. So before I turn the event over, I have some housekeeping and a couple of polls. So on to the housekeeping. This webinar is CPE eligible. You must be present for 50 minutes. You must answer at least 3 of the poll questions. And if you meet this criteria, we'll send you your certificate within 48 hours. If you have questions during the webinar, please add them in the Q&A. And you'll receive an email following this event with a link to the archive, which will be posted to our YouTube channel. Matt will drop the link into the chat, and we'll also drop the slide deck into the chat as well. And lastly, after the event, we would appreciate it if you would answer the short survey that will pop up on your screen. So 2 quick polls before I turn it over. The first one, will you be attending Intuit Connect next month? We may be hosting an event at the Sphere and are trying to get a feeling of who will be attending, so let us know. All right, and Matt, we can probably wrap up that poll if you're ready. Awesome, thank you. And then the second quick poll, have you heard about our Be Insightful premium content offering? In July of 2026, we are hosting a 7-night Caribbean working cruise during which you will have time to work on your business in sessions that are curated and led in such a way that you will walk away from the cruise relaxed and with the strategy and execution plan to grow your business to the next level. This is part of our Be Insightful community and training program in which we offer 9 training tracks, including tech stack, app comparisons, migrations, HR, marketing, business development, and others. It's led by some of the top trainers in the profession. Members have access to more than 30 CPE credit hours per year, workshops, and a variety of year-round premium content. If you want to learn more about the program or the cruise, click yes on the poll and we'll send it to you. And Matt, you can go ahead and close that up if you're ready. And now that we are done with the housekeeping, I will turn it over to Julie. So thank you, Julie.
Thank you. There we go. All right, so today we're just going to have a really fun conversation about defragging our software. I think, as I go into firms all over the nation, it's been one of those things that just always seems to come up. And it seems the longer I do this, the longer the list comes in regards to what our software looks like and our tech stack looks like inside of our firm. So I do have to say a quick thank you to our sponsors, Xero. They have sponsored us today, and Xero makes it easy to manage accounting in real time with tools with flexible reporting, automated sales tax through Avalara, and lightning fast bank reconciliation. Features like find and recode, built-in advisory tools, and unlimited user access help firms save time, clean up errors, and collaborate seamlessly with clients. So thank you, Xero. So the first thing I want to talk about are most firms aren't actually drowning in tax returns. I know that sounds crazy, so let me just go on that for a moment. You're drowning in software. Fragmented systems have created chaos, especially in today's world. So today we're going to talk about taking that chaos into clarity. I think this slide's really, really important because we're not alone. We're all there. We own firms, we run firms, we're managing firms, we're in a firm, whatever it is, there's a 97% inefficiency with technology. That's everyone probably on this call can relate to that. How can we relate to that? How many of you have ever made a list of what you actually use, but we have practice management tools, we have workflow tools, we have tax tools, we have accounting tools, we have cloud and IT infrastructure, we have client-facing tools. Can you imagine then if you took each of those and we could think about what falls under those? I think for most of us, it's finding, we always go, we have a problem, we go find a tool, right? And then, we don't always actually implement it or integrate it fully. I read a statistic when I was prepping for this, that mid-sized firms on the low end spend $200,000 plus on technology every year. Then we have the small firms, which small firms are small. They're spending a minimum of $50,000 or more. I think this one went from 50,000 to 150 for the statistic that I saw. That is insane, you guys. We are spending a ton on technology, but is it working for us? And is it creating efficiency inside of our firm? I think that's, where we kind of need to go. So this is the biggest operational headache when I walk into a firm, is the chaos of how many apps it takes to run a firm. There's constant duplication, endless frustration. The apps are disconnected, right? They handle way too many different workflows. Nothing's been completed in regards to getting those implemented, right? We've lost production. To me, when we look at software fragmentation, it's a people, process, and profit problem. And you're going to hear me say that many, many times over, okay, as we go through this. People, process, and profit. And so we really want to break that down into what I mean by that. So if people who are using our software, we've hopefully created some sort of process around what that software is and where we're going and what we're doing with it. But what happens is it's chaos. So I just want to explain what happens is firm owner, firm practice manager, someone has an issue, we find a solution. This person over here in accounting is using this solution. This person over here in tax is using this solution. Our admin team is using a different set of solutions. Are any of them talking to each other? How many times are we entering in that data? What could that possibly look like? So this is where we really want to talk about these hidden costs. Why do we have manual errors? How many times does your team enter in the same information into different programs? I mean, for us, before we actually sat down and looked at it, we were entering it into so many different platforms. And you want to know what was happening? Well, let's see. Bill's name got spelled incorrectly because someone fat fingered it, right? Or wait, someone called in and said, oh, Bill got divorced. So we split that client when the admins talked to our client, right? But we didn't split it anyplace else. So what happens? Come tax season, or maybe you're sending out a newsletter, we're still addressing them as one person. I hate that error. I hate when that comes across and we get that phone call, that email back, what have you. So those manual errors, again, I'm just giving one example. It costs us a lot. It's that people, process, profit, right? And I think those are the three buckets when we really break this down. Billing opportunities. How many times do you catch your team doing something that they have to redo it, or they didn't put in their billable time, or they didn't think it was billable, or they're having to go back and talk to this person because this person actually completed the project, but this person didn't actually know it got completed. It's out the door and we have somebody else working on it. I know that seems extreme, but I have been in firms where that is the case. So we, again, are missing out on that profit opportunity here when we have all of these tech stacks, all different places. Then let's talk about our client experience. Just like when I gave us about Bill getting divorced, that client experience doesn't look like we're a firm that's talking to each other. It looks like when you call in and talk to my front desk person, well, she's not relaying that information to the rest of the team, right? So how do we properly document so that our client feels like our firm is running as smoothly and like a team as possible? And again, I know that client frustration is big. And who would have thought that having so much technology inside of our firm would actually be costing us revenue with our clients and giving a bad experience? I've talked about wasted staff time. You guys, how many, those valuable hours, and we're going to get into that. We're going to get into why the frustration of our staff and why technology means so much to them. every additional app too that you put in, it's security risk. And I think we oftentimes forget about that inside of this industry. Every time we put client information and our information out there, the security risk of what we're doing becomes higher. We've elevated ourselves into that risk, right? And we don't want to do that with all the information that we currently have. So let's move on. So let me talk about, we have so many choices, and we have integration, we have adoption, we have training or lack thereof training. How many of you on this call, and again, this was probably 6 months ago, that I didn't realize how hard, I have not been into one firm that could run this to me almost instantaneously, and let's call it be 97% perfect. How many of you on this call could go pull a clean and updated active client list today that you are confident in and the rest of your team are in? I'm really curious to kind of see some of that. Again, I'm just curious what that looks like for the rest of you, but I have not been in a firm that can pull this and confidently hand it over to me and say, this is perfect or near perfect. Maybe we missed some inactive clients that have left in the last few months. So we are missing our most important data. And as a CPA firm, sometimes we're the last person, we put ourselves last in regards to that information and where we keep it, and then the output of that. So there's so much frustration. We've wasted time. Again, our accountants and preparers are usually using different information to keep that up than our admin staff. And oftentimes when I go into a firm, I find that my admin staff are, one, the early adopters of technology. Two, they're the ones that are probably keeping that technology the most up to date. And they're the ones that are trying to get everybody else to come on board with that. But it's really hard sometimes to get everybody out of their own way. If they have an old habit, if they have this and they're comfortable with it, they're going to keep doing it. There's so much inconsistency. And again, I'm going to go back to that Bill reference, that Bill example. Bill's getting divorced. If our entire team doesn't understand what that means and it can effectively communicate that by looking in one system, we are putting ourselves at risk. And again, I just think that being able to pull an updated active client list today, if you can't do that from one platform, one login, we have a problem. And that's what we're about to talk about too, right? Because you're running out of chaos. You don't know where your clients are. You don't know where they're coming from. So let's talk about spreadsheets. This is my favorite topic, and I know that that's going to come as a big surprise. I'm probably going to spend the most time on this slide as well. So Excel sheets. If Jim's running an Excel sheet and Sally's over here running an Excel sheet, I would love to know, how do we use that Excel sheet to run our firm? How does that scale? I definitely cannot scale my firm by running off a spreadsheet. And I want to put the caveat too, there are many firms that have workflow managers, practice management software. We have all the tools, but I would say 6 out of 10 of the accountants or tax preparers that I go into a client, those people are still using a spreadsheet. It doesn't matter how good, they don't believe in the system, they don't trust it. So accountants are still using spreadsheets to create their tasks. But how do we scale that? I'm going to tell you, 100% of the time, it's not scalable. We've got to get away from those spreadsheets. We've got to use one piece of technology that we all trust, that we can all build around. There's the integration, our emails in there, our phone systems in there, our texting's in there. Everything that we do can all be accessed by this one system. And this one system just does not have spreadsheets, ironically. Funny how that kind of works. There's no automation either in spreadsheets. And I think this is to our accountant's detriment. I can't automate anything. I can't take tasks off of your plate that you may see as not high value, because I may not know you're doing them, but I also may have no idea to the extent of what you're doing them if you're tracking it all yourself. So this spreadsheet thing is something that we've really got to work on as an industry. I know this sounds crazy, and I wrote it down because I've seen it happen in real time. Version control. Spreadsheets we have no version control of spreadsheets when they're going, maybe you got it here and someone else is going to go open it, doesn't open correctly, or they can't even open it. I've watched that happen too of, oh, no problem, I'll share that with whoever needs it. Well, maybe this person upgraded the computer or hasn't upgraded, and they can't even view your spreadsheet that you've been tracking. Also, we all know reporting. Reporting is so important to our firm, especially as we say we want to scale it, we want to grow it, we want to do something different in it. We have to have that reporting. We have to have that data to live on. Spreadsheets, I love it for one function. But how do I then be able to do any sort of reporting across my entire firm? It's non-existent. So I think the reporting function of spreadsheets is another reason why we have to kind of take that away. I think also spreadsheets, those details get missed. Workflows aren't centralized, right? Again, I talk about wholeheartedly our admin team or who else is doing some of those front end tasks. They have no idea what you're doing back here on the back end. They're trying to protect your time. They want you to do the high value stuff, but if they don't know, they can't help protect you. They can't gatekeep and answer the question where the client's calling that doesn't require you to answer them because they don't know that exists. So again, I think spreadsheets create a lot of chaos inside of our firms. And I know we love spreadsheets in this industry, but they are just not the answer. I think there is an answer for using spreadsheets, and I think it's to help migrate. So if you currently are working off a spreadsheet, that is great. How do we take that information and put it into a system that everybody can access, that everybody knows what to do? I have an example here that I want to share. So it's April 10th in my firm, I don't know, 7 years ago. And one of our tax preparers gets the flu so bad, she's like, can't work, like can't function, right? And there was a time where we would be like, well, all of those returns just get extended, right? We were easily able to go in, run a report. We knew exactly which ones were in, first out. We knew exactly what needed to be done. And because she wasn't keeping a spreadsheet that was only privy to her, that required her login to her desktop, wherever it was hidden on there, we were able to pick up those pieces. And again, I think there was a time where she was using a spreadsheet and she probably was really happy in that moment that she had given that up so that our workflows were centralized and everybody was aware of that work that needed to be done. Okay, I'm sorry, I spent a really long time on that. So this is our first polling question. According to a 2025 CPA.com and Bill survey, I know this was on my initial slide, what percentage of accounting firms are inefficient with technology? Again, not only are they inefficient, but I wanted to take it a step forward as you're answering this poll question is there are 60% admit that they're not even getting the full value out of their tech stack. So not only are we going to be super inefficient with the technology we have, but we're 60% aren't getting the full value. For any of us out there, we're all in the accounting industry, which means we all live and breathe by numbers, right? Who of us would pay 60% to get 40%? I don't think there's anyone on this call that would probably do that. The other interesting fact around this that I did a little digging was 2 out of 3 firms are always planning a tech upgrade, which means they all already know that they don't like what they have. So the answer to this is 97%. So there was 13% of you, 2 of you that answered that correctly. Thank you so much for pulling that, but that really means that just proves that we definitely have a problem with our technology in this industry. And again, and I go back, if we have 2 out of 3 firms are always planning this tech upgrade, then what does that mean for us? Right? We're always chasing that next object. So we've never fully integrated. So we're not seeing the value and we're not seeing that efficiency normally within our technology because we're not really bought in because we believe something else is going to solve our problem or we're not going to actually use it the way it was intended to use because we're just maybe plugging a hole inside of our boat. So thank you for participating. I do really thank you for that. So The burnout wheel. This is probably my second favorite slide to talk about as we go through this. So we have so much repetitive work inside of our firm. And when I go into firms and I talk to the employees and we talk about what's on their plate, what do they want to shift off their plate, it's always this repetitive work. They want the control back to do what they think they should be doing, which is probably what all of us, firm leaders, firm owners believe they should be doing as well. Choose your technology to do this. I think the burnout, and I'll talk about this a little bit later too, about the human cost of the burnout, but you've got to be able to get that repetitive work off your plate by choosing technology that will be able to do that. And I think this is where we have to be really intentional about our choices with our technology, right? So we've got the manual work. We've probably got to get a lot of that off of our staff plate, right? That causes staff burnout, which causes attrition, which causes even more fragmentation because we're looking for a solution to plug the hole of our human capital problem, essentially, because burnout is a human capital problem. Our employees, especially as we want to attract the younger generation, they want to do meaningful work. They want to do the work that brings them the most value internally, right? But then to take it a step further, which is where we believe the industry is going, right? That advisory work, that high level, high value work, they want to be able to have meaningful conversations in regards to the work that they're doing. So let me give you a hint. It is not this highly repetitive work. They do not want to be doing that. And again, as we're going through this process in this industry of we've got to get more people in the industry, right? And that leads me to my next slide here. So let's talk about the human cost. We have this huge, great departure. We need the younger generation to be entering into this industry. I have sat across a table in interviewing and simply asked the question, who else are you looking at? Or what other positions are you applying for? They were applying for a financial position in what I would call a very progressive firm. And the reason they were doing it was because of the app that they were using with their clients. We are losing out in this industry because the talent drain is going to the tech savvy industries, the industries that have adopted the technology that we're just now getting into. And some of us are a little, don't know if we want to adopt it quite yet or not. We are losing talent to that. I think it's our reputation, right? We've got to work more hours. We've got to put in this amount of time in tax season. What if our software, one software, worked for us? What if we allowed it to take away that burnout function, right? There's always going to be that burnout function with a select crew, because if I give you more time, you're going to take on more clients, you're going to take on more work. But if you take my advice and say like, okay, here's the scope, here's our clients, here's what we do. How does our technology work for us? How do I get my human costs down? How do I attract the next best talent? Because let me tell you, 300,000 plus are leaving the profession. There's more and more that are leaving every year. There's more and more that are retiring. Every time I hear a new IRS bill come out or something changes, it's too much to adopt within their system, right? They've got to change how they do things. Their technology has to change. They are having to train their people, right? It's too much. How do we take that off of the plate by utilizing and leveraging technology? And I think that's where we really need to go, is to the young professional. We really need to get rid of those low value tasks. Our talent feels underutilized. They believe they didn't go to college to come in here and enter and check data, right? How do we get that low value work and provide meaningful work back to them, to provide them to be able to have meaningful conversations? It's technology. And I've seen it time and time again be able to work. So hear me out on that. And it could slow the departure. And I also think technology is going to help us reframe our career path. I think it's going to help us relook at how we're doing things and what we're doing, and provide that meaningful work to our youth and the people entering into this industry or making career changes wouldn't it be crazy if we could change the way that people looked at this industry, that when someone wanted to change careers midlife, they were looking at our industry and they wanted to be a part of it, because we've been able to leverage technology to do the meaningful work and the meaningful conversations. I know you guys all agree with me. So let's walk through, how do we do that? How do we look at our firm and say, okay, here's where we're at. You guys, every one of us, no matter what we do, is a part of this problem, right? And I'm just over here. I want to make a big impact on this industry. I want to help change it. I want technology to work for us. I want it to do all the things that I've talked about before. I want us to create, or to promote talent to come to this industry. I would love if mid-career someone will come over here and help us, as we change this industry. So what if we made a list of all your tools, everything that you use? And again, I want to go down to like, do you use, like, it's crazy when you make a list. You can make this in Excel. This is the only time I'll tell you that Excel is okay to make something like this. But create a whole list of everything you use. And I started doing this many years ago, but it's like, what do I touch every single day? Do it every month. And if it's already on the list, leave it. But if it's something new that you're using, add it to the list. And I don't know how many times I've had, accountants, tax preparers come to me and say, hey, listen, there's this new technology out there. And if we buy it, this will take this off of our plate. If we can do this, we don't have to do that anymore, and we can do more, or what have you. It was crazy to me. Even when you look at your financials, you just see that big software spend, but dive down into it. What are those monthly spends? What are those quarterly spends? What are those annual spends? And again, we have practice management software. We have accounting software. How many accounting softwares do we have? How many practice management softwares do we have? How many portal systems do we have? How many signature systems do we have? How many tools do we use to do the accounting work monthly? Then we have the tax return work, the tax planning work. We have portals for clients, right? We have all of these things that allow us to touch our client-facing tools. Sometimes I've watched firms be able to do tax planning internally. Then they go buy a different software so they can explain it to the client, right? So that they can take what happens internally and properly explain that externally. All the automation tools that you use, anything that you use to communicate with your clients, the list is long, and I know it is. So we have our list. I would encourage you to make a second column. And what does that either cost you, monthly or annually? I think this is a really good thing to go through and do, just to have some awareness. And then take it a step further. How much do you think you have that implemented and integrated into your firm? Are you at 20%, 40%, 60%? Where did you land on that? And I think, if we're honest with ourselves, we normally don't make it past 50%. We get the tool, we buy it, and we start using it. And once it solves whatever pain point that we had, we kind of take a step back, right? We take that step back to do we need to continue on, right? So it never fully gets implemented and integrated, right? Find the redundancies and the integration gaps between your systems. I am telling you, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but I walked into a firm that had so many portal systems, so many ways of gathering information, that their team didn't even, it was so hard. It took their team so long to find out that client A uploads to this portal, client B sends it through this way, client C sends it. What are the overlaps and what doesn't integrate? And star those, put those in red and in yellow. What does that look like? And then calculate the impact. I've already asked you to calculate the money. What is the opportunity cost? What in that tech stack could you possibly get rid of by just integrating one of those other apps fully? And again, we're just trying to eliminate and fully use what we already have to use. So I knew I wanted to touch on this. So I went into, for consulting, went into a CPA firm. And one of the first things I always ask is, what technology do you use? I literally had to stop and say, I'm going to need you to make a list and then tell me how you use the technology. The data was literally duplicated no more than 10 times across 10 different systems. The reason why We had Jim, who really liked to prepare a tax return, but he really liked to only get his information through the portal. We had Carrie over here doing accounting, and she didn't really know how to use that portal because the training kind of fell short. So she was just getting things through email. And then she would maybe upload them, what she felt was important. We had someone using a magic link over here to get information through email. Secure, sure, why not? But where does that land? We had some people requesting information through workflows through another CRM system. And I could go find all of that, right? They were using a different portal system too to get work in and what that looked like. Again, I could go through. They were getting signatures and payments, basically all of those ways as well. So we've really got to look and say, okay, what do you like? What is really working well? And how do we get rid of all the duplication? There was no best source of truth. And I think I started out with who could run a active client list readily, easily. They could not. They could from 10 different systems. If then I could take 10 different Excel sheets and put them all together and hope there weren't duplications and what have you. I think the other thing we think about is those multiple logins. When you come in and you sit down and you get ready to work, how many do you have to log into? How many multi-factor? How many times do you have to get a code? You got to get an app to get in. And once you get into everything and you start and you're in a good cadence, and one logs out and you have to log back in, and then it's the next one. So it's just that security, those logins, those inefficiencies that we may not even think about. And it's the integration between applications. Again, we want our technology to work for us. And you'll hear me say that: people, process, profit, but I want our technology to work for us. I think I got to a place in my firm where I was sick of making the technology work for me. I wanted something, I had to figure out how to do it, how to do this to get this. I want it to work for us to make us more efficient. Once we kind of went through this CPA firm, the end result, we were doing a single entry, a unified workflow. Everyone knew where everything was. And ironically, that admin that was answering the phone, she became so valuable because she was able to find, I would say, 80% of the information needed when the client called in. So imagine that. Imagine if you didn't have to answer the client questions because everything was in one place and everybody knew where to find it. All right, poll number 2. What is the first step in auditing your firm's tech stack? Again, calculate lost hours, choose new software, inventory all tools, identify overlaps. What is that very first step that we just kind of went through? I don't have any fun facts for this one. I'm sure there's some out there, but I can assure you that we are all not as efficient as we would want to be. And it's not something that we think about. We constantly are thinking about what else we're going to buy to solve what other problem, pain point we're having or our staff are having. So wrap this polling question up here. All right, inventory all tools. Congratulations. 80% of you got that right. All right. So I thought this would be really fun to do and interactive because it's no fun to listen to me talk the whole time. What's one tool that in your firm that you think overlaps or duplicates another? If you guys all have something, I think portals are a big one. I think the CRM software is a big one that I see people using multiple. The way you obtain signatures too, I know that's interesting. I think even payments is something else that, people are taking so many different ways. Is it easy to record? So I'm seeing tracking clients, portals, reporting apps, payments, portals, tracking clients, portals. So there's definitely the work paper software. Yeah. I think, there's just so many ways out there that we can get everything all in one and be able to, again, create an all-in-one system. It seems like a dream, right? And that's what dreams are made of, because I think that's been something that I've really wanted to do, since I came into this industry, is why are we signing into so many things? So let's keep the conversation going. Talent retention, something that goes with this. I think tech is no longer optional, it's survival. And again, I'm going to go back to that talent retention. You've been able to attract some really great talent into your firm. We've got this toolbox, and we are so proud of our toolbox because we have been able to go out into the world and get so many tools. Again, reporting, portals, payment systems, tracking clients, workflow, work papers, whatever it is, we've been able to create a really great toolbox. And I think at one point in time, it was really great that we had this toolbox and it was full of all of these tools. I think what we're needing now is a Swiss Army knife in today's society. You guys tell me if I'm wrong, but I think if we could have one unified system, everything in one application. In this world, my email lives in there, my phone calls are being transcribed, the texting is in there, I can see who emailed who and when. It allows me as a firm manager, administrator, to be able to get ahead of any of those issues that we may be having, right? It allows me to manage in a better way. I think we fear having everything in one application to some extent, right? If we have everything in one, we're really putting all of our eggs in one basket. But I think what that brings to us is this Swiss Army knife. So this is the visual that I kind of envisioned. We have this toolbox over here. It's messy. Most toolboxes aren't really organized and clean, right? So how do we take those disconnected tools and make this Swiss Army knife? I think we really want one unified system, and we want to be able to have everything in one. And again, I keep saying it, but it's our people, our process, and our profit. If we can do that in one, we are going to see extreme results. Okay, so how are we going to do this? What if you could build your future firm? What if today you could sit down and you could build out exactly what that looked like? We can, and we're going to do it today, I think. So consolidate the tools. We want one tool. We want to choose a system that can scale. I think scaling in today's world is one of the biggest obstacles that sometimes we face with our current technology stack. Something, that I went through recently is we talked about the human capital problem. We have this great departure in this industry, right? Those clients have to go somewhere. It's an opportunity for everybody here on this call, right? We have the amount of work that's out there far exceeds the people that we have in our firm to be able to do the work, right? So we need to choose a technology that can grow and adapt to where we're going and what we're doing. We need to be really intentional on that too. Where's our growth going to come from? Who's going to be going with us on that? What does our organizational chart look like? And what are some of those things that if I could have them in the future, can I define them? Right? So for me, I know AI is part of the future. And again, let's talk about AI real fast. AI in this industry needs to have boundaries. It needs to have borders. To me, AI in this industry looks a little bit more like algorithms. It looks a little bit more like, how would a person in my position make this decision or input this number or do some of these things? Really want to be intentional about the way that I envision AI in this industry and the way it's going to work for us. But I also think we have to be able to show our staff the why. And here's why. They have to understand where you're going. If they can understand and they can see your vision, as firm leaders, we can see it. We know we're visionaries. We can see where we're going. We see the finish line. There's so many clients out there because of the great departure. We need our system to scale. We need technology. I need some AI, some algorithms, and with that, to be able to alleviate that low level, low value work so that I can retain my talent to have those meaningful conversations and provide that meaningful value back to my clients. So with that being said, we're going to share our why. We're going to identify the champions within our firm. Who are your champions who, when you say, hey, we're going to make this change, they jump right on board, and they can usually rally everybody around them to get them on board. use them, identify them. Let's make this easy. We're going to celebrate all of our small wins as we go through this. We're going to make our work easier. Listen to the pain points that your team is telling you. They know them better than you. You've had them for so long, you just learned how to work through them. Listen to what their pain points are, be able to connect with them on those, and be able to explain why this system is going to solve that and scale and what that looks like for them moving forward. They all want to understand the future, especially as you attract and retain that younger talent that we're talking about in order to scale our business. Again, let's start small. What are some small changes that you can make to defrag some of that software that you have? Celebrate, I think I said celebrate those small wins. I think oftentimes when I go into a firm and we're talking about essentially change management in this, right? We're going to choose a different system and one that's going to scale. There's resistance, there's skepticism, there's confusion, uncertainty, frustration. Just allow them to explore those and be curious on how that will actually affect them. If you're curious when doing change management, they'll usually answer the question for you in the way that you would have answered it for them, if that makes any sense at all. That was kind of confusing, but be curious when you're doing this. Ask them the questions. They'll be able to answer exactly in the way that you would have answered it to them. I think that's really, really important. And again, kind of over here on the right-hand side, I think it's important to be able to have these visuals, be able to know, this is kind of my visual of like, where's your firm going? What is it doing? What does it look like? What's important to me? We talked about reporting earlier. What does that look like? And how do you define that inside of your firm? I want to also talk about training. Training, I think, is something that we oftentimes miss because we don't have time, because of the season, because our staff just won't do it, because our clients aren't going to adopt it. Own it. This is what we're doing, and this is how we're doing. Provide the proper training for the proper integration. Allow everyone to become comfortable in the new system. What if you even empowered your people to own a certain portion of this new system? They're definitely going to have buy-in then, because they're going to have to hold the rest of the staff accountable. And again, this is going to help lead the way and allow you to take a step back from having to be the force that has to be reckoned with. Allow your team to step up and do some of that. All right, we have another polling question. So, which of the following is a key advantage of moving from a fragmented stack to a unified operating system? We have increased staff burnout, higher error rates, greater profitability and scalability, more manual data. I think, as we talk about change and software and technology, change isn't about adding work. It's about removing the frustrating parts of whatever it is that's inside that job so you can focus on the meaningful ones. I know I keep saying these meaningful conversations and the meaningful work. It's really the future of where we're going and what we're doing here, because that's how our team wants to feel internally, but externally, our clients want that as well. All right, let's see. You guys were all right. C, greater profitability and scalability. I think that's really what we all want to see. All right. So I want to talk about some key takeaways here. I think we've talked about people, process, and profit. And I think we've all determined we want to work smarter, not harder. There's a certain, population out there that as much time as I give you is as much work as you'll take. But I think we really want to be working smarter, not harder. But I think we want to be a little bit uncomfortable. And we have to get really comfortable being uncomfortable as the industry changes, as our technology changes, as the software is changing. We want to create a better way, and we want to create a better way for the future. So the things we really want to see is we want to see the automation. We want to see everything centralized. We want to see real time. And what does that mean? We really want that one source of truth. And I think, there's a software called Arrive out there, and this software is able to do it. I think, it tracks time automatically, which I think was one of my big wish list items, because how much time do we all take chasing our staff? It chases documents for you. How much time do we take, does our staff take doing that highly replicatable work of chasing, needing a W-2, needing a bank statement? How many times do they have to do that? And they get into the email, then they forget what it was. Again, there's software and technology out there that will be one unified system. It'll put everything centralized, and it's going to create a better way for you to move forward. I think these audits reveal inefficiencies. You know, for me, I was in a firm, and we did some time audits to really dig down into, like, what is our firm spending the most amount of time on? I will tell you, we did a time audit, but not based on what time was entered into their system, but based on going in and saying, how long do you spend on this person, and inside the actual tax return? How much do you spend on the work papers inside that tax return? How many emails did you do inside of here? And trying to create efficiencies around all of that. And again, they're primarily a compliance firm, so they're primarily driven by tax returns, but really understanding where those pain points were. I think audits, oftentimes, we look at it at face value. It's hard to find the time, but really digging into what is happening inside your firm, not just what they're telling you, but the actual, I think, exposes why your tech stack is costing you money. I'm going to go back to this, people, process, profit. I think we need to find this one unified system. We have the capacity to do more. Our morale is higher, and we have the capability to grow, scale. We have sustainable success. We've created the foundation for what our future firm, will look like. So all I ask you the rest of this week, I know it's supposed to 9:15, 10:15, but this is where we really need to start making some changes, right? We've got to really look, what tools are we using? What are we duplicating? What's costing us time and profit? And where I often think, I said patching tools together. I often think of a sinking boat with all of these holes in it. And oftentimes, all we do is, instead of rebuilding the boat and creating a really good foundation, we're just plugging these holes. Listen to your staff, listen to what they're saying. They normally will give you the answers, right? Eliminate redundancies, centralize, standardize, capture metrics, have good reporting, you guys. It's the foundation of how we run our firm, how we scale the firm, and how we grow the firm. So on that note, remember, it's not more software that makes us efficient, it's the right software. And again, I can talk, we use Arrive inside my firm. I'm part of the, founding members of Arrive, but I do think that we need to get back to making the software, we want it to work for us. I don't want to work for it. And I think we've got to get back to that, and we've got to find these companies where that is happening. They're listening to, how do we run a firm day to day? What does our firm look like? How do we create a software where we eliminate those redundancies, we centralize and standardize? So when you run your firm on one connected platform, you do gain efficiency, you gain the profit, you gain happier clients, a better team, better people, and a team that actually has time to breathe. And I think I'll just leave you with that. I'll take any questions you guys may have. Thank you for your time today. Obviously something I'm very passionate about in this industry, and look forward to more meaningful conversations.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Julie. And thank you to all of our participants for being here. Just wanted to give you a quick reminder. We do have 2 more future forward sessions this week. Tomorrow is practice management strategies to boost capacity and reduce burnout. And Thursday is get aligned, what your firm can learn from the chiropractor. So thank you, everyone, and y'all have a great rest of your day.
Are you an accounting or tax professional who wants to stay ahead without spending a dime? Join thousands who trust Insightful Accountant and tax practice news to keep them informed and empowered. Get expert updates on QuickBooks, Xero, tax planning strategies, and workflow tips delivered straight to your inbox. Whether you're a solo bookkeeper, firm leader, or tax advisor, these newsletters are your shortcut to what's next in the profession. They're free, practical, and built for people like you. Visit insightfulaccountant.com and hit subscribe to start your smarter workflow today for free.